Today I'm going to show you how to assemble our EconoLine 3-rail panel with the third leg. So the best way to get started is to get all the pieces out of your box and separate all the different pieces into different piles. So you'll have long pieces of pipe, your bell leg, and short pieces of pipe. So it's best to get all those separated, put them in different piles or different bins or boxes or whatever. And then you will also have T-fittings, elbow fittings, and crosses. So before you get started, I recommend having a large table or flat surface that you can assemble your panels, because it'll help you make sure that they're not crooked when you're assembling them. And also we recommend that you put together at least one panel without glue before you start gluing your panels, because it'll help you get the hang of things and will prevent you from making mistakes that are permanent once you glue them. So that's what we recommend. And now we can get started. The best way to go about this is to get all the pieces you need for one panel. And I have them out here now. You need 6 long pieces of pipe, 3 bell legs, and 6 short pieces of pipe. And then you'll need 5 T-fittings, 2 elbow fittings, and 2 cross fittings. So now that you have all of your pieces out, we can get started. Also, before you start gluing, make sure you shake your glue, because the chemicals in there can get separated and then your gluing won't hold the same and your panel might fall apart. So you want to make sure you shake your glue before you get started, and you'll hear about more gluing tips as we go to make sure you do a proper gluing job. So I like to start by making the leg pieces first and going from there. So for a leg piece, you're going to start with an elbow and a short piece of pipe. And now when you're gluing, you're going to hear me saying this throughout the entire video because it's very important. You want to make sure you glue on the inside of your fitting, and you want to make sure you get a really good even coat of glue. So go around a few times and you can look in there, make sure it's all even and it's all a good coat. And then you want to do the same exact thing to the outside of the pipe where you're going to put it inside of the fitting. So you want to make sure you have a nice even coat of glue around the entire pipe and in the side of your fitting. So now you can just insert them in there, and that's it. So the glue can be very messy, so you want to make sure you wear clothes you don't really care about, and the table, if it's a nice table, maybe put some cardboard or plastic or something down. Yeah. So the next part is you're going to take a T-fitting and glue on the inside of your fitting and the outside of your pipe. And then this part is where the table comes in handy. So both of these open ends of the fittings need to line up. So the best way to do that is to have them both sitting flat on the table, and you just make sure they're lined up and they're even and flat on the table, and then you just push the pipe in. And then you can test to see if they turned at all. If this is sitting flat, it's not like wobbling here, then I think you're in good shape. So the next part is you take another short piece of pipe, glue the inside of your fitting and the outside of your pipe, and just put your pipe in there. And you want to make sure the pipe goes in all the way, otherwise your legs, these fittings for both legs won't line up. So you want to make sure you get the pipe in there all the way. And for each leg fitting, or leg piece, you're gonna have 1 elbow fitting and 2 T fittings. And 2 short pieces of pipe and 1 leg. Here's our second T. You wanna glue the inside and then the outside of the pipe. And again, like you did the first 2, make sure these 2 are lined up flat on the table, and then just push the pipe in the rest of the way. So here's your first leg piece. And then next you're gonna put the bell leg on. So I'm not gonna glue it for the purpose of this video because these panels are being shipped out, but we do recommend that you glue it. So the steps are the same. So you glue on the inside of your fitting, the outside of your pipe, and then you just insert your bell leg on the end. And here's your first leg piece. And you just set that off to the side and do it again. So take your elbow and a short piece of pipe, glue on the inside of your fitting and the outside of the pipe, and then you just put it in. You can twist the pipe around in there if you want. Just make sure it spreads the glue around a little better, but you don't have to do that. If you got a good even coat of glue on the fitting and the pipe, you don't need to do that. And then on other pieces, you can't do that. So just a thought. So you take our T, and glue on the inside of the fitting and the outside of the pipe. Make sure these are lined up, both sitting flat, and push it in the rest of the way. You take another short piece of pipe and glue it to this T. So glue on the inside of the T, outside of the pipe, and insert it there. And we take our second T for this leg, glue on the inside of the T, outside of the pipe. Make sure these 2 T's are lined up, and then just push it in the rest of the way. And here's your second leg piece. And then you're going to take a bell leg and same thing, glue on the inside of your fitting, outside of your pipe, and put it in there. Some people don't glue their legs because they like the panels to be a little shorter for storage, and you can do that if you want, but we definitely recommend that you glue all of your pieces to ensure that your panels don't come apart when your horses are in them. So another thing to keep in mind. So next we're going to make the middle piece. Your middle piece consists of 1 T and 2 crosses. And 2 pieces of the short pipe and your third bell leg. So take a short piece of pipe and your T, and note that the T is up and down, vertical, and not horizontal like the other ones. So glue on the inside of your fitting, the outside of this pipe, and insert it in there. And you can see on the inside of the fittings if your pipe reached the end. So that is another way to check to make sure you got it in all the way. Now we're going to take a cross, glue on the inside of the cross, outside of the pipe, and like we did on the other legs, you want to make sure these are lined up. Both ends are sitting flat on the table, and then just push the pipe in the rest of the way. Now we take our second short piece of pipe and glue it to this cross. So glue on the inside of the fitting, outside of the pipe, and next we glue on our second cross. So glue on the inside of the fitting, outside of the pipe, and you want to make sure the 2 crosses are lined up, flat on the table, and just push it in the rest of the way. So here's your middle piece with the 2 crosses and your 1 T, and now we're gonna put our third bell leg on. Like the rest of them, I'm not gonna glue it, but you would glue on the inside of your fitting, outside of your pipe, and then just insert your third leg. So here's your middle piece, middle leg, and set it off to the side. And now we don't have any pieces to worry about lining up anymore, just putting the long pieces in now. So we will start doing that. I like to start on this end with the leg and move up to the top, but you can do whichever way works best for you. So again, glue on the inside of the fitting and the outside of the pipe and insert it in there. And these you can twist a little bit, make sure they're in all the way and your glue is even. Glue our third piece into here, into the elbow. All right, and that's your first section. You can see it all. That's what your first section will look like. And then this is a good time to make sure your legs are straight. So all of your pieces are going to be sitting flat on the table if you didn't make any mistakes or your fittings are all straight. So this is all sitting flat on the table. If it's not sitting flat on the table and let's say one of these is sticking up in the air and you can push it down and your piece is wobbling back and forth, then you know that it's crooked. But as long as you didn't take too long to glue everything together, you can still fix that. And I will show you how to do that in the next step. So if your first leg is crooked and this is bouncing up and down, you're going to want to put your middle piece on first before you fix it. And this part can be tricky because you need to get all three of these pipes into all three of these fittings at the same time. So glue on the inside of all three fittings and then the outside of all three pipes. Make sure you get a good coat of glue. And then you start by just inching them in a little bit at a time. So start on one end, get them in all a little bit, and then I like to stand it up like this, and you can just use the panel as leverage and to push it in the rest of the way. So here's your middle piece. Got your three long pieces and your middle piece on there. And here, so you can test to see if this is a little crooked. Mine's a little crooked, so my middle piece must have been a little crooked. But if your leg piece was crooked, it would still be bouncing. Sometimes it fixes itself, but not always. So what I would do in that case is stand it back up. I like to put it on the ground, but you can't see it on the ground. So just stand it up. I put my 2 feet here and stand above it, and then you can just twist the panel into the way that it's crooked. So if this part's sticking up a little bit, you want to twist it so it starts pointing down. And then you can put it back on the table and test it. See that everything's sitting flat, and that should do it. If your glue didn't dry, you can fix any bends as you're going. So that's how you fix that. Next, we're going to put our last 3 long pieces on here. Go on the inside of the fitting and the outside of the pipe. And these parts are easy because no lining fittings up or any of that. Put our last piece up here. Go on the inside of the fitting, outside of the pipe. Make sure to get it in all the way. And here's your next section. It's a little tall, but you can kind of see. And now we're gonna put on our last leg, and same thing with the middle piece. You're gonna have to make sure you get glue in all of these pieces, and you have to get them all together at the same time before your glue dries. So if you're a little worried, you can use some extra glue. It'll take the glue longer to dry, so you have more time. So you might want to think about doing that on your first few panels until you get the hang of it. So you've got to glue on the inside of all 3 of these fittings and the outside of all 3 of these pipes. And then you start doing the same thing, putting a little bit in each one. And how I usually do it to save time, I just push it against my body to get it in there. But you don't have to do that. You can stand it up on the ground to make it a little easier. And then you just push from the top to get it the rest of the way in, and that's a lot easier. So here's your completed panel, the EconoLine 3-rail panel with the 3rd leg. And I hope that helps you guys out.